French sociologist Louis Wright described slavery, Jim Crow, the prison, and the ghetto all as peculiar institutions that served the function in the United States of not only extracting labor, but the social ostracization of the class of Africans. Because the prison is nothing more than an evolution of the institution of slavery, prisoners are expected to act like slaves, and they are treated as such. Even the 13th Amendment leaves a loophole saying, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for crime. This very specific and intentional loophole has made sure that white people have been able to keep profiting off black cheap labor. And to this day, even 150 years after so-called emancipation, 1 in 3 black men will enter the system at some point in their life. I'm only 19 years old, and out of my 4 closest childhood friends, 1 of them has already spent multiple years in the system. In 1947, 8 incarcerated black men in an Anguilla prison camp in my hometown of Brunswick, Georgia, decided that just because they were prisoners, that didn't mean they were slaves. And because of this, they lost their life. On July 11, 1947, Jonah Smith, Henry Manson, Willie Wright, James Smith, George Patterson, Neal, and Willie Frank Chambers were killed in cold blood at Anguilla prison camp in Brunswick, Georgia. The New York Times reported on it the next day, mostly relying on the evidence that the warden had given to them from his own account. Their article said, a group of new prisoners joined the camp yesterday and they were sent out to work on the Jessup Highway. The new men refused to work and were brought back to the camp about 4 p.m. They would not get out of their trucks when ordered, and Warden Worthy called county police. Chief of Police Russell B. Henderson at Glynn County talked to the prisoners and told them to do what the warden ordered. He told them to cut out that foolishness. The men were taken back to the prison camp. When they left the trucks, they were lined up in the prison enclosure. When the police chief finished talking to them, they broke, ran to the barracks, and dove under the buildings, which is about 2 feet off the ground. The prisoners crawled under the building and ran toward the fence enclosure on the other side. Officers then opened fire with shotguns and rifles. Many other white publications posted the same story from the warden and just told this story and painted this lie of runaway Negroes who just didn't want to work and pay out their crimes, and they paid the price for it. It wasn't until one of the survivors of this incident was able to get a letter to F.A. Moore, the president of the local chapter in Brunswick of the NAACP, and he worked in conjunction with Walter White, the executive secretary of the NAACP, to investigate. By July 18th, the warden and all 5 officers had already been exonerated by a grand jury. Later that year in August, in the State Board of Corrections hearing, Sam Levine, Glynn County Commissioner, he testified saying that there was no justification for the killings. The chief of county police and 2 policemen were there, but they didn't see any reason to shoot the prisoners. He said, I saw the Negroes where they fell. 2 were killed where they crawled under the bunkhouse, and 2 others as they ran under their cells. The only thing that they were trying to escape was death. Only 1 tried to get over the fence. The NAACP investigation, going along with the commissioner's testimony, found that they were not trying to escape, and in fact they had refused to work. Brunswick, Georgia is a very marshy area, and they were ordered to dig a ditch filled with poisonous snakes without even shoes on their feet. Because these people were looked at as slaves, the warden, who was drunk, decided that because they didn't want to work, they didn't deserve to live. Although everybody knew that these people had been killed simply for not wanting to work, and that the warden had did it in cold blood. But the warden and the guards stuck with the story that they were trying to escape. The commissioner testified once again, saying they could have overpowered the 2 guards on the road, instead of waiting until they were back in the barracks surrounded by guards and police, all heavily armed. The board demanded a new inquiry, abolished the camp, and ordered the 70 prisoners still incarcerated at Anguilla to be transferred to other camps or to the state prison. It looked like for a minute that they might actually get some justice. In October of 1947, the warden and the guards in Anguilla were federally indicted for violating civil rights statutes. But at the end of the day, this is America, and not too many white men have ever been prosecuted for what they have done to Africans, and not too many black men in general have ever got justice for anything. The federal trial began on October 27, 1947. It ended on November 4th. The jury deliberated for about 8 minutes before finding the warden and all guards not guilty. As we fight against mass incarceration and police brutality, we have to make sure we know how strong the roots are of these systems in the American society, as well as the people who have went through these things in the past. Not much is known about the personal lives of these men, but make sure you share with a friend to make sure the names of Jonah Smith, Henry Manson, Willie Wright, James Smith, George Patterson, Edward Neal, and Willie Frank Chambers are forgotten no longer. We might not be able to give them any real justice, but we can make sure that their names are known by the next generation, as well as all who've been indoctrinated by this American system. Peace.